The wind was cold, carrying dust and ash across the ruined colony. The buildings were broken, the ground cracked, and smoke still rose from the places that once had life. A lone human traveler walked carefully through the silence. His coat was heavy, and his boots pressed deep into the dirt. He looked like a man who had seen many worlds, but also like someone who carried a heavy heart. He had come only to restock his supplies, nothing else. This place was already lost. But as he walked past a collapsed house, he heard a faint sound. It was not the sound of the wind. It was softer, weaker, and almost hidden. He stopped, listening. Again he heard it, a small cry, like the voice of a child. His heart tightened. The man pushed away the broken metal and stone. Behind it he saw two small figures huddled together. They were alien girls, their skin pale blue, their hair tangled with dust, and their large eyes filled with fear. Their clothes were torn, and their little hands clutched each other tightly. They looked no older than 6 or 7 years. The human knelt down slowly. "It's okay," he said in a calm voice, though he knew they did not understand his language. Still, his tone was gentle. The older girl moved in front of the younger one, trying to protect her. She was scared, but brave. The human could see she was shaking, but her eyes refused to look away. He opened his pack and pulled out a ration bar. Slowly, he placed it on the ground, close to them, then stepped back. The younger girl's eyes followed the food. Hunger was stronger than fear. She crawled forward and grabbed it, tearing it open with her small teeth. The older one hesitated, but then helped her sister eat. The man waited. He did not rush them. For the first time, he noticed how thin they were, how fragile their arms looked. They had been alone for many days. No family, no one to care. Just 2 orphans left in the ruins of a world that had fallen. When the food was gone, the human pulled out a water flask. He drank first, then offered it to them. The older girl took it carefully, watching him with cautious eyes. After a few sips, she gave it to the younger one, who drank quickly. Her small face finally relaxed, if only a little. The man could have walked away. He had no duty here, no reason to stay. But as he looked at them, 2 small lives left behind, he felt something move inside him. He remembered a time long ago, a different war, and faces of children who never had a chance. These 2 still did. He reached out his hand. The older girl hesitated, then slowly placed her tiny hand in his. The younger one followed, holding both of them. Their touch was cold, but alive. For the first time, they were not alone. The human traveler did not know what future waited, but he knew one thing. He could not leave them. And so, on that ruined world, among ashes and silence, a new bond was born. A man without a family, and 2 orphan girls who had found hope again. The small ship rattled as it lifted off from the ruined colony. The human traveler sat in the cockpit, but his eyes often turned to the back. There, wrapped in old blankets, the 2 alien girls sat close together. Their wide eyes looked around the cabin, full of fear and curiosity. They had never seen the inside of a ship before. For them, everything was strange. The human adjusted the controls, his mind heavy. He had never planned this. He was a wanderer, moving from world to world, never staying long. Now, somehow, he had 2 fragile lives depending on him. He wondered if he was making a mistake. But when he looked at them again, his doubt faded. They were watching him. Not with trust yet, but with hope. And hope was enough. Days passed. The girls said little, speaking in their own soft alien tongue. The man did not understand the words, but he understood their silence, their glances, their hunger. He gave them his share of food, ate less himself, and repaired a small corner of the ship so they could sleep warm. At night, When the engines hummed and stars glowed outside the windows, he would tell them stories in human language. They could not follow the words, but they listened to his voice, and sometimes they smiled. The older girl, quiet but sharp-eyed, watched him closely. She tried to copy his actions, how he tied knots, how he fixed broken wires, how he checked the maps. She was learning little by little. The younger one was softer, quick to laugh at small things, like the light flickering on the control panel or the sound of the ship's alarm when she pressed the wrong button. For the first time in many days, they began to act like children again. The human felt something change in him. His life had always been empty. He fought battles, traded goods, traveled through forgotten routes, but nothing ever stayed. Now, every day started with two small voices. Why? Little hands pulling at his sleeve with innocent eyes waiting for his care. He was no longer just a traveler. He was becoming something he had never been before. A father. Yet not everyone would see it this way. When the ship landed at a trade outpost, people stared. A human walking with two alien children was not a common sight. Whispers followed him. Some laughed, calling him a fool who wasted his time on strays. Others warned him, saying alien orphans would only bring trouble, but he ignored them. He had made his choice the day he pulled them from the ruins. That night, as the girls lay curled under blankets, the man sat alone by the ship's window, staring at the stars. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. Feeding them, protecting them, keeping them safe from the dangers of space, all of it would test him. But when the younger girl stirred in her sleep and whispered a soft word that sounded almost like father, he felt strength rise inside him. The home they had now was not built of walls or land. It was built of trust, care, and the bond slowly forming between them. A home of strangers, becoming a family. Years passed quietly, but not silently. The human traveler, once a lonely wanderer, was no longer seen alone. Wherever his ship docked, small trade moons, mining colonies, or forgotten stations, two young alien girls walked at his side. They were no longer starving, no longer afraid. Their eyes had grown brighter, their steps more confident, but their presence did not go unnoticed. At first, people only stared. A human raising alien orphans was strange enough, but as time went on, whispers began to spread. Traders told each other stories. He carries two shadows that follow him everywhere. Soldiers muttered, "Those girls are not normal. Something about them feels different." Others laughed, calling him a man who had lost his purpose, clinging to children who would never be his own. The human ignored the words, but the girls heard them. The younger one asked no questions, though her small hands often tightened around his arm in public. The older one, sharper and braver, started listening more carefully. She caught the meaning even when the language was strange, and each time she stood taller beside him, as if daring anyone to take her place away. But rumors travel faster than ships. One day, while the human bargained for supplies on a frontier station, a group of strangers approached. Their clothes were marked with the insignia of raiders, and their eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. "Those are fine little pets you have there," one of them sneered. The human said nothing. He placed himself between the men and the girls, his hand resting near the knife at his belt. The raiders laughed. "Relax, traveler. We only wonder why a human wastes time raising alien strays. They'll never be yours. When they grow, they'll leave you. That's what they all do." The girls stood frozen. The younger one trembled, hiding behind his coat, but the older one did not. She stepped forward. "Dee," her eyes burning with anger, and said something in her own tongue. The words were sharp, defiant, and though the raiders could not understand, her tone was clear. The men only chuckled and walked away, but the human could see it. Danger had begun to circle them. Whispers had turned into attention, and attention was rarely safe in the outer worlds. That night, inside the quiet hum of the ship, the older girl sat awake. She stared out at the stars, her young face serious. She remembered the ruins where they had been found, the cold hunger, the warmth of the man's hand pulling them into life again. She promised herself something in silence. She would grow stronger, strong enough to protect him, just as he had protected them. The human, watching from the doorway, understood without words. He knew the galaxy would not stay silent forever. The girls were no longer just orphans. They were becoming something more, and the stars themselves seemed to be watching. And so the whispers spread, crossing trade routes and smuggler dens. There is a human traveling with 2 alien daughters. No one knows why, but perhaps it will matter. The human traveler had always known peace could not last. The galaxy was wide, and in the dark corners of space, danger always waited. For years, he had hidden the 2 girls on quiet routes, away from the busy trade lanes, but the whispers of their existence had spread too far. It began one night on a barren mining moon. The ship rested in a small docking bay, engines cooling, when the first sound came, a sharp alarm that cut through the silence. The man's instincts woke instantly. He grabbed his rifle, motioned for the girls to stay quiet, and stepped out. The older girl clutched the younger, both hiding behind the metal crates. Shadows moved at the edge of the bay. Raiders. At least 6 of them, armed with blades and blasters, eyes glowing with greed. They had followed the rumors, hunting for the strange human who kept alien orphans at his side. "Hand them over," one of the raiders called. His voice was rough, cruel. "2 girls, rare blood, worth more than a ship full of cargo. You can walk away alive, human, or die trying to keep them." The human stood tall, his coat swaying in the dusty air. He said nothing, but the rifle in his hands answered for him. The first shot rang out, echoing through the bay. A raider fell, clutching his chest. Chaos exploded. Blaster fire lit up the night, sparks flying as bullets struck metal walls. The girls covered their ears, their small bodies shaking. The older one, though terrified, pulled the younger deeper into cover, shielding her as best she could. The human moved with sharp precision, every shot deliberate. He had fought before, on worlds long forgotten, and those skills had never left him. 2 more raiders dropped, their weapons clattering on the floor. But numbers were against him. The last 3 closed in, forcing him back against the crates. A blade slashed his arm, blood dripping. He gritted his teeth, pushing one, attack her away with the rifle butt. Another raider raised his blaster toward him, and then it happened. The older girl, eyes wide with fury, screamed in her alien tongue. She grabbed a broken metal pipe from the floor and swung it with all her strength. The raider stumbled, surprised by the sudden strike from a child. It gave the human just enough time to fire again. The man finished the fight with ruthless speed, leaving silence once more. The bay was filled with smoke and the stench of burnt metal. The human stood breathing heavily, blood staining his sleeve. He looked down at the girls. The younger one sobbed quietly, but the older stared at him with fire in her eyes. Not just fear, but determination. She was no longer only a child. In that moment, he saw the shape of the woman she might one day become, strong, fierce, and unyielding. He crouched, pulling them both close. "You're safe," he whispered, though he knew it was only for tonight. The shadows would keep rising. The galaxy had noticed them now, and somewhere far above, in places beyond his reach, powerful eyes had begun to turn toward the human and the 2 orphan girls who refused to be taken. The raid changed everything. The human traveler knew it. He had fought bravely, but the galaxy was listening now. Too many eyes had seen him. Too many whispers carried his story across the stars. He could no longer hide the girls. And yet, he also knew he could not protect them forever. Time passed. The 2 orphans grew taller, their voices stronger. The younger girl became lively, her laughter filling the silent ship with warmth. The older girl, however, grew more serious. She trained with the human, practicing with tools, and sometimes even with weapons. She never forgot the night raiders came, nor the promise she had made in her heart, to protect the man who had once saved her life. But one day, everything changed again. It was on a neutral world, where the human had gone to trade supplies. Officials from an alien faction appeared, dressed in silver robes. Their eyes searched the crowd until they found the two girls. They whispered among themselves, pointing at the shape of their faces, the glow of their skin. The man's heart sank. They approached, speaking in a language the girls understood. The human could not follow all of it, but he caught enough. Chosen, heritage, destiny. They spoke with certainty, saying the girls were no ordinary orphans. They were heirs of bloodlines long thought broken, bloodlines that could one day shape the fate of their people. The human stood firm. "They are not your property," he growled, gripping the handle of his weapon. But the older girl touched his arm and shook her head. Her eyes were full of sorrow, but also something else. Acceptance. "They are right," she whispered in her tongue, then tried to explain in broken human words. "We must go. Future calling. But we come back. Always." The younger girl cried, clinging to his coat, refusing to let go. The human's chest tightened, his voice breaking as he said, "No one will you." But deep inside, he knew he could not stop it. To deny them this path was to keep them small, forever hunted. To let them go was to risk losing them forever, but perhaps also to give them a chance to rise higher than he ever could. The parting was painful. The older girl, now almost grown, placed her forehead against his, a gesture of her people. "You gave us life," she whispered. "One day, we give it back to you." Then the officials led them away. The younger one looked back again and again, her tears glowing in the light of the station, until finally the crowd swallowed her. The human stood alone, his heart hollow. The ship that had once been full of small voices now echoed with silence. Years passed after that day. The man travelled still, but the fire in his eyes dimmed. He spoke little, kept to himself, and avoided questions about the children he once carried with him. To others, it seemed the story of the human and his alien daughters had ended. But in the quiet of his ship, at night, he would stare at the stars and whisper their names. Somewhere out there, they were alive. And he clung to that hope. The galaxy moved on, but for the human, the years became nothing but silence and waiting. For 12 long years the human lived in quiet shadows. His ship aged with him, patched and tired. He wandered from one forgotten station to another, never staying long. People who once whispered about the man with alien daughters now barely remembered his story. To most, he was only a lonely wanderer again. But on one cold morning, everything changed. The human was repairing an engine coil outside his ship when he felt it first. Not sound, not sight, but a vibration deep in the ground. He frowned, looking up. The sky above the frontier village was calm at first, a pale blue. Then the air shivered, and light rippled through the clouds. People came running into the streets, pointing upward. Children gasped. Traders dropped their goods. The human stood still, his old instincts sharp. A shadow fell across the village. Then the clouds broke apart. From the heavens, a royal starship descended, larger than any vessel the human had seen in years. Its surface gleamed like polished silver, engraved with golden symbols of power. Engines roared like thunder, shaking windows, rattling every wall. Smaller escort craft circled it, their weapons shining. The villagers panicked, some fleeing, some kneeling. This was no merchant vessel, no raider fleet. It was the mark of empire. No one summoned a royal starship unless destiny itself was moving. The human narrowed his eyes. Why here? Why now? The ship slowed as it descended, dust and smoke billowing in great waves as it landed just beyond the village square. The earth itself trembled under its weight. The ramp lowered with a deep hiss, and armored soldiers marched out in perfect lines, their armor bright as the sun, their spears glowing with power. The crowd fell silent, fear heavy in the air. The human did not move. His weathered hands clenched into fists. If they had come for war, this village would not survive. And yet, his instincts whispered otherwise. This was not invasion. This was arrival. The soldiers parted, and from within the great ship came figures in flowing robes, their heads held high. Emblems of royalty shone on their chests. They walked with grace, but also with the weight of command. Every villager lowered their head, whispering prayers. But the human only watched. Something stirred in his chest, something he had not felt in years, an echo of memory. He remembered two small girls, cold and hungry, clinging to him in the ruins. He remembered their laughter on his ship, their tears when they left. He remembered a promise whispered long ago. One day, we give it back to you. And then, as the figures reached the foot of the ramp, the impossible became real. Two women stepped forward, tall, radiant, their features refined, their presence royal. Their eyes glowed with the same fire he had once seen in children. Time had changed them, but not erased them. The human's heart stopped. He knew them. The crowd gasped as the royal women paused before him. And then, in front of everyone, they knelt. The galaxy trembled, not from engines, but from the echo of a bond unbroken. The square was silent. Dust hung in the air. All eyes were on the two women kneeling before the old human traveler. No one dared to breathe. Soldiers, merchants, farmers, everyone froze in disbelief. Royal blood did not bow, not to anyone. And yet, here they were. The human's chest tightened. His hands trembled. He saw their faces clearly now, older, stronger, more refined. But beneath the crowns and flowing robes, beneath the armor and the weight of power, he still saw them. The same two little girls who had once clutched his hands in the ruins of a dead world. The older one lifted her head first. Her eyes, glowing like crystal, shimmered with emotion. "Father," she said, in perfect human tongue. The words struck like thunder through the silence. Gasps spread through the crowd. The younger one reached forward, tears slipping down her cheeks. "We came back," she whispered. "We never forgot." The man's breath caught. For 12 years, he had wandered, carrying only hope. For 12 years, he had whispered their names into the emptiness of space. Now, here they were, not lost, not broken, but returned to him greater than he could ever have dreamed. The crowd began to murmur. Some fell to their knees, realizing what they were seeing. Soldiers shifted uneasily, uncertain how to react. The royal women did not care. They stood, stepping closer, and without hesitation, they embraced the human, one on each side, holding him as tightly as children would. The man closed his eyes, the weight of years melting away. He whispered hoarsely, "I thought I had lost you." The older one shook her head, smiling through tears. "You gave us everything. Food when we were starving, shelter when we were broken, a family when we had none. We carried your gift into the stars, and now the stars bow to you." The villagers stared in awe. They realized this man, once mocked as a fool who wasted his life on alien orphans, was now the one honored by royalty. The galaxy itself had changed because of a choice he made long ago. The younger one turned to the soldiers, her voice sharp with command. "This man is under our protection. No one touches him. He is ours, our father." The soldiers, trained to obey, dropped to one knee. An entire royal guard bent before a simple human traveler. The village erupted in cries of shock and wonder. Some wept, others cheered. The human could only stand there, tears burning his eyes. He had never asked for reward. He had never wanted glory. All he had done was offer kindness to 2 children when no one else would. Yet that small act had returned to him like a tidal wave, reshaping destiny itself. The sky thundered once more as the great ship powered its engines. The 2 women guided him forward. "Come," they said together. "Your journey as a wanderer is over. You belong with us now. You belong in the light you created." And so, before the eyes of a stunned world, the human traveler walked into the royal starship, not as a forgotten wanderer, but as the father of queens. The galaxy would never forget the day 2 daughters came back, not to claim power, but to honor the man who had once saved them with nothing more than kindness.